Hello, if you're just joining us, we have not started the meeting yet. We are waiting for a quorum. There appears to be an accident delaying some of our board members. So we will start as soon as we can. Thank you. Your microphone, please.
Oh,
Thank you.
interesting. Okay, so now it's okay, right? Good evening. Let's get started. The meeting of the Board of Directors of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority is now called to order. Valley roll call, please.
Director Kennett,
Here.
Director Slaughter,
Here.
Director Chapman. Here. Director Gill.
Here. Before I move to the next item, we have a new staff members and kindly request to Kelly please introduce the new members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll hand it over to Lee Brasher.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, directors, and good evening. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Vincent Tran, who joined us October 24th as our IT technician. He reports directly to Justina Teen, our fiscal services officer. Vincent comes to us with a BS in computer science from UC Davis and has experience at both the Menlo Park Fire Protection District and most recently Humane Society Silicon Valley. His previous two positions were very similar to what he's going to do for us. And we were impressed with his achievements of making improvements to computer security, as well as overseeing the implementation of the ticketing system. We're very excited to have Vincent join us with his I can fix it attitude, just that we need. And Vincent, is there anything more you'd like to say to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Vincent Tran. It's nice to meet all of you. As Lee said, I used to work at the Fire Protection District for Menlo Park, so Menlo City. So basically it's a fire department. It's a government agency, and with that, I also used to work for the Humane Society of Silicon Valley. So it's an organization, nonprofit, and basically it's a shelter for animals and a medical and hospital for animals, so like dogs and cats. So I believe when I applied for this job, I really like the mission statement actually. So at the Humane Society, we're all about saving animals. So it's sort of like a humanitarian goal. So, and I saw the mission statement for Open Space Authority, and I saw that the organization was all about like preserving nature and like protecting the wildlife. So in regards to that, I feel like my transition from Humane Society as a nonprofit and working for a government agency for the fire department really makes it like a smooth transition from those workplace to the Open Space Authority. So I'm happy to be here, and I do bring a I can fix it attitude, and I've done that at the Humane Society. Anything that needs fixing, I'm open to like working, like resolving issues and looking to improve the company as a whole. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Vincent. You survived your first board presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Please look like fixing something. Anyway, so the next item is a new business. Member of the public will have the opportunity to comment on any matter on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. The first item is authorize the general manager and assistant general manager to negotiate an amendment to current lease with B&T Farms for assessor parcel number 712-18-202, 712-18021. Linda Pong is going to be present this item. She's here. Oh, she's there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Linda Fong, Real Property Program Manager. There is no presentation associated with this item. It is as shown on the agenda.
I'm kindly actually ask the board if they have any question about this item. No? So kindly ask if any member of the public would like to make any comments on this item.
I see none. I see none.
Okay, so the next item is an announcement.
Madam Chair. We need to call for a motion and a vote on the item.
Oh, yeah,
I'm what?
that's good, but good catch. I'm kindly ask the board, please entertain the motion to approve this item. I move to.
Second.
We have the motion moved by Director Kenneth and seconded by Director Chapman. And kindly ask Kelly, roll call vote, please.
Director Kenneth?
Yes.
Director Flaher?
Yes.
Director Chapman?
Yes.
Director Gill?
Yes. Item is approved unanimously. So let's wait then. 2 more board members coming. Okay, so you want to do the roll call again,
Sure can, if you'd like. me to.
please?
For the entire board, Director Kenneth,
Still here.
Director Flaher.
Here.
Director Chapman. Here. Director Annabelle. Here. Director Alexander.
Here.
Director Gill.
Here. That's good. So now we have the full board. I'm going to move to the next item is an announcement. An announcement regarding the item to be discussed in closed session will be made prior to the closed session. So there are three items the board is going to be discussing closed session. Two is a conference with the real property negotiation. And then the third item is a conference with the legal counsel anticipated litigations. And I'm kindly asked the legal counsel if he has anything to add in these items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing to add. The details are on the agenda. Thank you.
Kindly ask if any member of the public would like to make any comments on any of the items we are going to discuss in the closed session.
I see none.
Thank you. Then the board convene to closed session. the legal counsel if there are any reportable actions taken.
No reportable actions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next item is the public comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for person desiring to address the board on any matters not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Kelly, do you see any?
I see none.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes, October 27, 2022. Kindly ask the board if they have any question about this item. No, then I'm asked if any member of the public would like to make any comments on this item.
I see none.
Kindly ask the board to approve. Okay, thank you. Second, who will?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have the motion moved by Director Kenneth and seconded by Director Chapman. Kindly ask Kelly, roll call vote, please.
Director Kenneth,
Yes.
Director Flaher,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Annabelle,
Yes.
Director Alexander,
Yes.
Director Gill.
Yes. Item is passed unanimously. Want to move to the next item, if the computer just allow me. New business continue. The item, the member of the public will have the opportunity to comment on any matters on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. The second item is an informational item.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Ah.
We have one consent item to approve tonight.
Oh, so let's move a little bit back, a little bit faster. So next item is a approval of the consent item. Kindly ask the board if there are any changes to the consent calendar. No, then kindly ask if any member of the public would like to make any comments on this items.
I see none.
Okay. Kindly ask the board, please entertain the motion.
Make a motion.
Who made the motion?
Me.
You made the second. He wants to say.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have the motion from Director Alexander and seconded by Director Flaher. Now please roll call vote.
Director Kenneth,
Yes.
Director Flaher,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Annabelle,
Yes.
Director Alexander,
Yes.
Director Gill.
Yes. So this item is also passed unanimously. Let's move to now is a new business continue. So member of the public will have the opportunity to comment on any matters on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Under the new business, the second item is an informational item. Save Mount Diablo partnership presentation, and our general manager Andrea McKenzie is going to introduce our guest speaker.
Good evening,
Andrea,
directors.
please.
Can you hear me okay?
Not really.
Not really.
Good evening, directors. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, that's better.
Okay. Well, following up on the board's last meeting where we had a presentation from the Peninsula Open Space Trust, tonight we have an informational presentation from a regional conservation partner, Save Mount Diablo. As stated in the board report, Save Mount Diablo was founded in 1971 as a nationally accredited land trust and conservation organization. They're based in Walnut Creek, California. For more than 50 years, Save Mount Diablo has been a leading force in open space preservation and land use policy in the East Bay County of Contra Costa. They've protected more than 120,000 acres of open space, on and around Mount Diablo in alliance with California State Parks, the East Bay Regional Park District, and other partners. The mission of Save Mount Diablo aligns closely with the Open Space Authority, including in the areas of land acquisition, stewardship, restoration, education, public policy, and connecting communities to nature through outdoor recreation that's consistent with the protection of natural resources. This evening, with us are Executive Director Ted Clement and Land Conservation Director Seth Adams, who will make a presentation on Save Mount Diablo's mission, conservation history and successes, and the growing area of geographic influence for the organization, and including implications for conservation partnerships, including with the Open Space Authority. So it's my pleasure to turn the presentation over to Ted and Seth, and welcome.
Andrea, thank you so much for that introduction. On behalf of Save Mount Diablo, I want to thank Chairperson Gill, your entire board of directors, and General Manager Andrea McKenzie for having us this evening. We've so enjoyed the process of getting to know and collaborate with Andrea and her team. In this time of the climate and biodiversity crises, good partnerships for conservation are especially important. I'm going to give you tonight a brief overview of Save Mount Diablo and how we work. And then Seth Adams, our Land Conservation Director, is going to talk to you about our expansion further south into the Diablo Range. Can we put the PowerPoint up on the screen, please? There's our introductory slide. Can we move to the next slide, please? As Andrea indicated, Save Mount Diablo is a nationally accredited land trust formed in 1971. We work to protect Mount Diablo and its important associated open spaces, including Mount Diablo's connection to its sustaining Diablo Range. When we were formed in 1971, there was one park on Mount Diablo State Park. And in those days, it was under 7,000 acres in size. And you can see that on the map on the left side of the screen. If you look on the map on the right side of the screen, you see that today there are more than 50 parks and preserves around the mountain north of Altamont Pass, totaling over 120,000 conserved acres. Because of Save Mount Diablo and our good partners like East Bay Regional Park District, California State Parks, the East Contra Costa Habitat Conservancy, Mount Diablo and its foothills are one of the Bay Area's most significant assemblages of natural lands and wildlife habitats. Please advance. Save Mount Diablo uses various tools to protect land. One of those tools is land acquisition, where we acquire land in fee simple title or we acquire conservation easements. Oftentimes, when we acquire land in fee simple title, we will eventually convey those properties to park agencies such as East Bay Regional Park District or California State Parks, so that the size of the parks in our area can grow and greater benefit our communities. Next slide, please. I'll give you a flavor of some of our recent acquisition projects. This year, we acquired a partial conservation easement on about 154 acres of the Concord Mount Diablo Trail Ride Association land on the slopes of Mount Diablo itself. This land falls within an area known as the Missing Mile, a highly strategic area on Mount Diablo. It's about a square mile in size, and it actually contains a number of privately owned open space acres that have not yet been conserved or developed. So we're very focused on this area to conserve more land, and we're very thankful to conserve this property, almost about 154 acres in size. Next slide, please. Just the other week, We acquired a option agreement on the Crane Pond property, also within the missing mile. This will give us 1 year to raise about $500,000 to ensure that this property is protected in perpetuity. This missing mile area that I talked about is strategic for many reasons. One of the reasons is that it's contiguous with Mount Diablo State Park. So we're working to ensure all these open space areas get connected and conserved. Next slide, please. Advocacy. Advocacy is the conservation tool that we have used for the longest period of time. We really started as an active advocacy organization back in 1971. And this year we've enjoyed some significant advocacy victories. For example, the proposed Faria development on the hills above the hills of Marshall Regional Park were threatened by a proposed 1,650 unit development. Inadequate environmental review had been done. We asked for adequate environmental review. The city didn't listen to us, the developer didn't listen to us, and eventually we had to go to court. And we won 2 legal victories this year to ensure that an adequate environmental review will be done of this proposed development project. We've also been very active on the Concord Naval Weapons Station. This new land that is to be developed is next to the Thurgood Marshall Regional Park. So we're keeping a very careful eye on it and advocating for its good development and good environmental review. Next slide, please. Stewardship. We have a very active stewardship program run by our staff and hundreds of volunteers. Save Mount Diablo directly oversees a couple thousand acres, but we also help do stewardship work for our government partners like California State Parks, East Bay Regional Park District, and the East Contra Costa Habitat Conservancy. We're able to do this because we have such a robust stewardship program. Some of our recent stewardship projects are our 10,000 Trees and Plants project, where we're looking to build up the natural carbon sinks in our area by planting more native trees and plants to better absorb carbon dioxide and help us with the climate crisis. We also release a lot of native species back into their natural habitats. And we involve a lot of young people in our stewardship program as well. Next slide, please. So we've had a lot of signs that our society has an underlying disconnect with nature. You may have heard of some of these nature deficit disorder related studies. Richard Louv, of course, really kicked this off in 2005 with his national bestseller book, Last Child in the Woods. But there have been many other studies documenting our modern society's disconnect from the natural world. REI, for example, did a study in 2017. One of the factoids from that study was that the average American kid now spends roughly 4 to 7 minutes of unstructured outdoor time a day, which is less outdoor time a day than the average prison inmate in the United States receives. So this is a serious issue. We see it on other fronts as well. For example, the Lilly School of Philanthropy every year looks at Americans' charitable giving, and typically charitable giving to conservation environmental efforts ranks much lower on the list. As Paul Hawken has written about in his book, Regeneration, Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation, our planet and youth are telling us the same story. Vital connections have been severed between human beings and nature. This disconnection is the origin of the climate crisis. It is the very root, and it is where we discover solutions and actions that can engage all people regardless of income, race, gender, or belief. And of course, education is how you change a cultural value system and move nature to the center of that value system. Next slide, please. So at Save Mount Diablo, we've been investing a lot more of our resources into education programs. Next slide, please. One example of that is our Conservation Collaboration Agreement program with middle schools, high schools, and colleges. We have a Connect, Educate, Serve, and Diversify philosophy in this program, where we look to get kids directly connected to nature through meaningful things like solos in nature. Then once they've started to directly connect with nature and develop that love for nature, they're more apt to listen to the facts and figures about conservation. So that's the educate part. And then we want to empower these people once they feel that love for nature, that direct love, and have been educated. We want to empower them on how they can act to help us with things like the climate crisis. So we give them environmental service projects to do. And we also always use our program to diversify the types of people we're getting connected to nature and to save Mount Diablo. Next slide, please. We're doing lots of creative education programs beyond our Conservation Collaboration Agreement program. We just opened the first of its kind nature preserve in Contra Costa County called the Mangini Ranch Educational Preserve, where any group can reserve this beautiful preserve free of charge for an entire day. So it could be a church group, it could be a yoga class, it could be a high school biology class, you name it. They can reserve this property free of charge for an entire day so they can have an intimate experience in nature. This preserve, I should point out, is also near California State University East Bay Concord campus, where we teach a semester course every semester on land conservation. Next slide, please. Also with our education offerings, we have a very popular Discover Diablo outings program where we typically have 3 outings per month, rock climbing, mountain biking, hiking, yoga in nature, meditation in nature, you name it, where people can sign up free of charge for these fascinating outings in nature led by our naturalists and other staff. Next slide, please. And because of this very unique and challenging time in which we live, where we're faced with a climate crisis and a biodiversity crisis, our organization has recently greatly expanded its geographic scope to better address these concerns. And I'm very pleased now to turn it over to Seth Adams, our Land Conservation Director, who's really become one of the leading authorities in the state on the Diablo Range. Seth will now take it away.
Hey, everybody, I'm the Land Conservation Director, as Ted said, and I've been working at Save Mount Diablo as its first employee for the past 35 years. And as Ted said, we're expanding the area in which we do our work. Our geographic area used to be focused on the main peaks of Mount Diablo up in Contra Costa County. And in recent years, we've expanded over and over into more of the Diablo Range. Ted showed you where we started, where 7,000 acres east of Highway 680 and north of Highway 580 around the peaks of Mount Diablo. And by the current day, we've gone to 120,000 acres. But we always knew that if Mount Diablo got cut off from the rest of the Diablo Range, we would lose a lot of its distinctiveness. In 2017, we began planning for a significant geographic expansion. We quadrupled the area in which we worked down to include southeastern Alameda County and southwestern San Joaquin County, bearing in mind that the narrow area there between Altamont Pass and Corral Hollow is the narrowest part of the Diablo Range. The problem is that most people don't even know what the Diablo Range is, but Altamont Pass is a critical wildlife corridor between Mount Diablo and the areas that you know as Corral Hollow or Henry Cove or so on. What most people don't know is that the Diablo Range actually stretches across 200 miles from Mount Diablo down to Kern County across 12 counties. It's kind of a mountain lion, golden eagle, California condor wildlife corridor. It's a freeway, and it's pretty intact and has incredible biodiversity, in part because it's in the rain shadow of the Outer Coast Ranges. It's intact, and the environmental stresses there create evolution at a faster pace. For a long time, I was telling people that the Intercoast Ranges west of the Sacramento Valley and west of the San Joaquin Valley were California's next big conservation story. And then in his last year in office, President Obama created the Berryessa Snow Mountain national monument west of the Sacramento Valley and prove me right. And what that leaves is the Diablo Range. As you can see here, starts up at Carquinez Strait. Most people only know of the two crossings where there are freeways at Highway 580 and Altamont Pass and down at Pacheco Pass. But it broadens down to 40 or 50 miles wide, 200 miles long. And as I said, it's relatively intact. You can look at the night sky, look at the satellite images of the Diablo Range and see that it's even darker, most of it, than the Sierra. If you look at cell phone coverage or other kinds of indicators, that dryness there has kept it mostly intact. That doesn't mean that there aren't threats to the Diablo Range. It just means that we've got a big chance here to make a big difference in terms of preservation. Even as we were doing our expansion, we were looking to the areas further south. And one of the big battles that we took on was the expansion of Carnegie Off-Road Vehicle Area into the Tesla area. And ultimately, we were successful in helping turn that area into a new state park, as opposed to an expansion of the off-road vehicle park. It was a good example of what we know from the Diablo Range, which includes lots of big serpentine deposits and other unusual geology, which is, if you look at any particular place on the Diablo Range, whether it's Mount Diablo or Mount Hamilton or San Benito Mountain or so on, you'll find incredible biodiversity. It's because of that really complicated geology, those varied conditions, et cetera. But over and over, we find that it's one of the biggest hotspots for biodiversity in the state. The problem is nobody knows where it is or what it is. And so with your help, Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority was actually a co-sponsor with us of a Bay Nature article a few years ago. For the first time, we did a publication entirely about the Diablo Range. And as part of it, we did the first map of all the public lands of the Diablo Range. And that was kind of a game changer, because for the first time, you could see the connectivity and the possibilities of what could happen here. Up in the Mount Diablo area north of Highway 580, we've been incredibly successful. We've protected about 75% of what we think is important. But if you look at the entire Diablo Range, only 24% has been protected. So there's a tremendous opportunity there, and there's a tremendous need. Unlike a lot of areas where you can simply take a piece of state or federal land and transfer it from one agency to another, most of this area is in big private ranches. And so that's a lot of what we're going to be dealing with in the future. Of course, there are lots of threats starting up in the north with subdivisions like the FRIA project in Pittsburgh, Ted mentioned. Alternative energy, whether it's windmills or solar, is obviously a big deal. Any of the canyons where there's water, there's going to be some kind of threat, but the dryness is also one of the things that's helped with keeping things intact. An example is the Del Puerto Canyon Reservoir project, where we just had a victory last week in terms of stopping the agricultural water district there from moving forward with that project. You can look at high-speed rail as either a threat or an opportunity in terms of directing mitigation. Here's one of the big solar farm project threats in Pinoche Valley, which however resulted in 25,000 acres of preservation. And of course, if you get down to Coalinga, you can see that there's all kinds of declining oil and gas kinds of things. So I've basically shown you the Diablo Range, and I'm just going to quickly show you a few of the landmarks. It's the spine between the bay and the Salinas River and the San Joaquin River further east. So a lot of the county lines are actually along the crest of the Diablo Range and among some of its high peaks. You all know Mount Hamilton, of course, in Santa Clara County. Henrico, the biggest state park in Northern California. Pinnacles is part of the Diablo Range. The Pinoche is San Joaquin Desert, a really unusual vegetation community on the east side of the Diablo Range. And of course, here's the 109-mile-long San Benito River, which starts up on San Benito Mountain and the highest point of the Diablo Range. Here's the view from San Benito Mountain, looking sort of northwest. So the Diablo Range is full of superlatives. It's incredible biodiversity, incredible suite of rare and endangered species, places that are only known to a few local people, Table Mountain here in the Chelan Valley, for example. And so we started interpreting and educating people about the Diablo Range. We had a big opportunity in August 2020 when the SCU fires started, and we created a program called Diablo Range Revealed. As our board has done this expansion, we said we're going to do it in a graduated way. we're going to expand the area in which we do our acquisition projects more slowly. Then the area in which we do our stewardship projects, we'll accept property rights a little bit further south, all the way down to the Santa Clara Alameda County line. And we'll do advocacy in the area further to the south. We'll keep expanding those areas over time. As you move from Mount Diablo south, you get much bigger ranches at much lower prices. And so we can accomplish a lot of conservation with significantly lower amounts of funds. So where we're at right now is Save Mount Diablo is expanded to the 7 northern Diablo Range counties as far south and including San Benito and of course Santa Clara. And happy to answer any questions. Our board has also made it clear that what we're really looking to do are collaborations and partnerships with nonprofits and agencies such as Santa Clara Open Space Authority. And we're looking for projects and using seed money in various kinds of ways to get going here. So we really love the fact that you guys are nimble, entrepreneurial, and are just doing incredible things in Coyote Valley and Coyote Ridge. And we look forward to working with you. And sorry if I went a little bit over there. And Andrea McKinsey, some of you may know, has been someone I've worked with for decades. You guys are really lucky to have her. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I'm just kindly ask the board if they have any questions about this item, ask that out there, please. Any board member?
Yeah, specifically, obviously, you explained why you're coming to us, and I guess why, what can we really do for each other along those same paths as we're going, and still be of value to the environmental community as a whole? What do you see do you have anything specific in mind?
Could you restate that question, please? Why are we coming down to include Santa Clara County? We did kind of a gap analysis that showed that you guys were doing a great job on the base side and on the front ranges of the Diablo Range, but there wasn't a lot of work doing conservation on the east side of the Diablo Range, Altamont Pass South, and so we just started looking at where we could not duplicate efforts, but where we could aid efforts or help where no one's doing something. To help make connections all the way down the range. And then we came up with a plan to do it in a step-by-step sort of process.
And I think just to expand on that a little bit further, I think you were getting to, how can we collaborate? And, if you look at our historic partnership with East Bay Regional Park District, you see that we've collaborated on open space bond related matters. We've collaborated on stewardship projects. We've collaborated on acquisitions. Lots of letters of support for one another in our initiatives. Sometimes we've taken on advocacy or even legal defense where East Bay Regional Park District needs some extra support. So these are just some of the examples of ways that we may be able to collaborate in the future. And again, we're just so grateful for you having us tonight so we can start to get to know one another better, look for ways to collaborate, because as I said earlier, in this time of the climate crisis and biodiversity crisis, good conservation partnerships have grown in importance.
One example that I really point out, and I've been here for this entire history, is East Bay Regional Park District, which has about 1,000 employees compared to you guys, and has 125,000 acres under their belt. They had almost no money for acquisition in 1988 when I was hired by Save Mount Diablo. And a number of activists, including Save Mount Diablo, helped put together their first Measure AA funding measure. And it was a game changer, of course. When it was extended in 2008, Save Mount Diablo had grown to become the second largest donor to that funding measure. Our capacity had increased dramatically. And honestly, we're having very frequent conversations with your staff about future funding measures and how we can collaborate with you on those.
I was looking at your map and your western boundary as it comes into Santa Clara appears to go all the way down to like 101. But what I'm hearing you is that you're really more interested in the east-facing side of the range. And so if you could clarify that, I would appreciate it. And then also, in terms of access, you see a lot of access on that eastern side if we can do the acquisition.
I think we're gonna see increasing access all up and down the Diablo Range because there's fast growing populations on both sides. And of course, the population is growing faster on the west side. I didn't mean to in any way suggest that we're not going to do lots of work in Santa Clara and on the west side. I'm saying that there are fewer park agencies and fewer institutions on the east side in Merced and Stanislaus and San Joaquin. The fact that you guys are already doing work in Santa Clara, much like East Bay Parks, the fact that State Parks has Henry Coe in Santa Clara County, those are all things we can build on. What I talked about in terms of the gap analysis was when you think about where the N3 Ranch project was, for example, that shows in your master plan and in the Santa Clara HCP master plans, for example, as an area without much, with less interest for good reasons. It's less threatened, but it allows for incredible connectivity between parks to the north and parks to the south. So we looked for where can we be additive as opposed to duplicating the work of what other people are doing in creating these collaborations. So you will undoubtedly hear us comment on your next funding proposals or your next master plan, general plan update about connectivity and other areas that you might not be thinking about yet. In terms of access, our history is with East Bay Regional Park District and state parks where we have to do all things, resource protection and recreational uses as well, because that's how you build public support for the funding measures that we all want in order to expand our work.
Any other board members? Okay, Director Chapman, please.
I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this because I'm from Orinda, that I didn't know about your work. I mean, I'm very familiar with Mount Diablo and hiked it, and I have sisters that live in Walnut Creek and Pleasant Hill, but I didn't know that about your expansion. So, kudos. It's nice, and I drive the Ultimate Pass a lot, going back and forth. So, I'm very intrigued by what you're doing and the expansion. I'm certainly going to tell my sister.
One of the things that I think about is you guys have had an incredible partnership and have benefited from the long histories of Peninsula Open Space Trust and Green Foothills. And we're kind of like a smaller version of Peninsula Open Space mixed with Green Foothills because we started as an advocacy organization. We added land trust functions later, and we still do both of those in a very big measure. And so we're looking forward to the collaboration of connecting through you to the Santa Cruz Mountains and over across to the peninsula. And the work that we're all doing here in the Bay Area is groundbreaking. It's exciting. And when you think about the smaller size of the Santa Cruz Mountains and the huge size of the Diablo Range, the connectivity is just so important. If you base it on where the rivers are, or if you base it where the slopes start rising quickly, the Diablo Range is between 5,400 and 10,000 square miles. So 6 million acres of habitat in one way or another. And connecting that through you guys, through Coyote Valley to the Santa Cruz Mountains is ultimately going to make the two of them the most important wildlife habitat in the entire Bay Area.
Both sides, through and around Livermore and that area. So I have one question for you, because this is work that we're doing now, which is very close to my heart, is how does equity and access to open space factor into your work?
Yeah, so I was talking earlier about how we are investing more and more into education. And again, we have this philosophy of connect, educate, serve, and diversify. So we are really utilizing education as a way to reach more communities and create more opportunities to get people into nature. You will see DEIJ principles throughout our strategic plan and our climate action plan. So it's a very important value for us. And you see a lot of that expression directly in our education programs.
Director Alexander, please.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. This is great to learn more about your organization. I think you have a really interesting model. I think you don't do a lot of direct stewardship, but I think you have a lot of volunteers. And do you provide most of the volunteers for like trail building and stuff at Mount Diablo?
Yeah, so we actually do a lot of direct stewardship. We have a few full-time stewardship staff, but we could not do all the stewardship work we do without hundreds of volunteers. And not only are we doing direct stewardship work on our own lands, we are also helping our agency partners with their stewardship work because we have such a robust stewardship program. So we do direct stewardship work on Mount Diablo State Park. We do direct stewardship projects on East Bay Regional Park District lands. We do it, we help the East Contra Costa Habitat Conservancy with stewardship. So we do have stewardship staff, but we are supplemented literally by hundreds of volunteers. We have an outstanding volunteer program. And again, we also use that to really get young people connected to nature.
We also kind of absorbed and we became a fiscal sponsor and sort of absorbed the trail building group and provide their services both on our properties and in regional parks, state parks, et cetera. So yeah, we're supporting a lot of recreational trail building and maintenance.
Yes, I have some friends who do trail building at Mount Diablo, and I realized it was probably through you. And it sounds like a great program. I think the one piece that I don't know if you do anything with, do you do anything with agriculture? With working with agricultural lands?
Mostly cattle grazing.
Okay.
Director Hannibal, please.
My question is, the reason I was asking about the boundary on the west and your interest in the western is because connecting our Ed Levin County Park with our Sierra Vista is a goal. And so Post is not working east of 101. So collaborating and having you as a potential when we have a seller that wants to sell to a land trust versus an agency can be a really important tool to helping us complete a portion of the Bay Area Ridge Trail. So that's very exciting. And I just wanted to add that I grew up in Brentwood. And so the view that you show of Mount Diablo was on your opening is the view I grew up with as a child. And we always looked there to see if we were going to have rain or not for the day. So it's very exciting to see what you've accomplished. And like Dr. Chapman, I've hiked up from both the northern, southern bicycled up the mountain. And just so excited to hear all that you have done since I left in the 60s. Yeah.
We can move quite quickly and we're doing a step-by-step increase in the area where we'll buy land, accept development rights and do advocacy. So we're looking forward to expanding each of those functions further south in a step-by-step project. And I honestly, within the next couple of years, I expect we'll add the final 4 or 5 southern counties to our advocacy efforts. But we were just talking today about a capital campaign focused on Diablo Range efforts. we look forward to helping you with those basic functions that can be difficult or easy of who holds the conservation easement, who does the pre-negotiation, so on and so forth. And you have the same advantages that we do, but sometimes you need two partners to do these things that you guys are still fast and nimble, but you can't do a land acquisition in 2 or 3 weeks, and we can.
Director Kenneth, please.
Yes, you brought up something, Seth. You mentioned the valleys east of Mount Diablo, and you've got a 20-year head start on us. And frankly, we've had our hands full with everything else on this side of the Mount Diablo. But really, it's been in our long vision. And
You guys are doing amazing. You guys are doing an amazing job. You have moved. I've been watching the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority since your complicated beginning, and it took a little while, and then you guys just took off like a rocket, and I'm so impressed by what you're doing. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Any other question from the board? Now, let me ask one question. In what way, other than the real estate transaction, can MSB assist its conversations partners?
Do you want to answer that one, Andrea, or would you like us to?
Please.
Go ahead, Seth.
In what way can we be partners? I think one of the simpler ways that we're already talking about are for your future funding measures. And we're not going to come in at the same level that Post is. Their fundraising efforts are legendary. But we spend tremendous amounts of money on advocacy efforts and campaigns, to the point that we're not quite sure about one right now, but of the last 15 election campaigns we've been involved in, we've helped pass 14 of them. Funding measures, urban limit line measures, so on and so forth. So I suspect we will be a partner in your next funding measure.
Thank you. If board has any other question, I'm kindly asked if any member of the public would have ask any question to Ted and say.
I see that.
Any staff member want to ask any question? No? Thank you very much, both of you. And it's a really incredible presentation. A lot of information we learned about your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Let's move to the next item. This is the informational item. Anyway, let's move to the next item is accept final audit report for fiscal year 2021-2022 as prepared by Moss, Levy, and Herdzin. If I just pronounce right. LLC. This is Justina Tan is going to present that.
Yes, good evening, directors. Tonight, we're presenting the results of the authority's independent financial audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th of this year, 2022. The auditors were on site for 2 days back in August, and they conducted the rest of the audit process remotely. We conversed either over phone calls or over email. In summary, the auditors expressed an opinion that the financial statements have been presented fairly and free from material misstatement. And here with me tonight is a representative from our auditor's office, Alex Holm. And he will briefly discuss the audit standards and approach taken and present the audit results. And with that, I'll hand it over to Alex.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So hi, my name is Alex Holm, and we gave the authority an unmodified, clean opinion. In terms of our audit approach, I'm going to go over a little bit of how our usual audit approach is. Pretty much, we look at all the major kind of transactions or types and test it with the authority. So we look at 25 disbursements from conception to entering into the GL and clearing the bank. We look at 25 payroll transactions, making sure, employees are being properly paid, vacations being accrued correctly. And then we look at deposits that come in. You guys don't have too many receipts, but we sample about 20 of them. And then we look at also high risk disbursements areas, like we test 25 individual credit card transactions from conception to pretty much into approvals to GL, essentially, and make sure they have proper backup. And we also look at essentially, depending on the amount of reimbursements done during the year, we also take a sample of employee reimbursements and also a sample of petty cash. So this year we looked at 15 employee reimbursements and we looked at 8 petty cash transactions as well. Also in terms of, and we also look at, like, in terms of transactions, we also look at kind of capital expenditures too, to make sure they're properly capitalized in the financial statements as well. Other than that, we look at various different, we look at the balance sheet items to make sure they're also properly accounted for, and pretty much see if each balance sheet item actually has kind of sufficient backup to kind of make sure that that number is substantiated quite well. And then, so I'm going to go over now the changes to this year's financial statements. And if you're keen-eyed, there's a few big changes on the financial statements this year. Easy one to point out, the opinion letter changed a bit. In terms of what's said, it hasn't changed, but in terms of the wording and the presentation of the opinion letter, it changed. Another big thing is, one of the big changes accounting wise this year was how the rules for leases have changed. So now you guys leasing a bit of land out. So then now instead of usually just showing them, the revenue coming in for the year, the GASB has said that they want to show the life, whatever the length of the lease term is, and show that valued out as a receivable for the entirety of the lease. And also, you can't show an entirety of the receivable without picking up the revenue. So then they also have offsetting deferred inflow to kind of offset it. So then now you see the full amount of how much you're going to receive for over the term of the lease. Another big change on the financial statements this year, or kind of a big kind of blip, was the authority has money within the San Jose or Santa Clara County investment pool. And so they pretty much take all the monies from cities, special districts, pull them all together, and they usually have these kind of, they put it all into safe investments and kind of share the revenues and everything with these entities. One of the adjustments we had to make was essentially the value as of June 30 for the Santa Clara County pool was down about maybe 3% as of June 30. Like the value of the investments were down 3%. So since that's a big dollar amount, so that's why we had to make that adjustment. Usually it's like 0.01% or something. Like it's nothing very material. But this year, as you can see for the economy and everything, as of June 30, it had to be booked in. So that's why you see these kind of big investment losses on the income statement. And also piggyback off of that, another big difference this year was kind of the net pension liability. That number is valued based on the prior year. So then that is what PERS's number is from 2020 and 2021, that fiscal year. And if you remember back then, the economy was doing well and everything, and investments were doing fantastic. And that is why that net pension liability went down from like 900 grand to 31 grand. And if you look at we have these schedules in the back of the audit report that kind of shows the overall for PERS. And if you look at the prior year, it was funded at 75%. And this current measurement year, it went up to 88%. So that's why that pension liability shot all the way down. But as you know, as I was saying, like the investments and stuff for this June 2022 was not great. That number's going to shoot back up next year. So don't just look at this saying it's all it went, our pension liability went down 3. It's going to go back up because of how bad the economy, the market was in 22. So bear in mind with that. That's all the changes for the financial statements. Does the board have any questions regarding the audit process or the financial statements as a whole?
Kindly ask the board if they have any question about this item, please ask Alex or Justina. Director Kenneth, please.
Yes, when we first met you, you were holding back from investing in the market. Has that changed at all, or are you fully invested as much as you feel you need to be in the market today, or where do you stand in that? I'm referring to stocks, specifically, equities market and bonds.
I'm sorry, but can you repeat the question?
Okay, how's this? Better?
That's way better. Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay, so when we first met you, you were holding back from investing in the marketplace, referring to equities and bonds. Where are we today in relation to that?
Justina, you want to take that?
Sure, through the chair. Actually, Director Kenneth, our investment advisor is Chandler Asset Management, and they're due for a quarterly update to the board as well. But different from our independent financial auditor for today's item. However, just to briefly touch on it, per our investment policy, we do not invest in stocks. So that volatility that you see in the stock market doesn't quite impact us specifically transactionally at the transaction level. Obviously, economy as a whole, that might be different, but not specifically for stocks volatility. In terms of the bond market, as directors may or may not be aware, rates are increasing. But as we previously mentioned, there's always an inverse relationship. So that was kind of what Alex was actually alluding to in terms of, as of June 30th, on the financial statements, the board will see that we had to book unrealized losses to the market value of the portfolio, both in the investment pool held at the county, as well as the money that we have actively managed by our investment advisor, Chandler Asset Management. And so what happens is rates are going up. We're getting our coupon, our interest dividends payments, but the value of the bond itself has gone down in general. However, we tend to hold our bonds to maturity. And so that means at the end of the day, when the bonds do mature, we're getting our full 100% of our principal back. So the whole time we're getting our interest every 6 months. And then at the end of the maturity, we're getting our full principal back. Does that help?
Thank you. No, I get it.
Yeah.
Any other board member has any question? No, so I kindly ask if any member of the public would like to make any comments on this item.
There are none.
Thank you. So kindly request Kelly, roll call vote, please. Oh, first we have to ask the board, please entertain the motion. I'll move the motion.
Second.
So we have the motion by Director Kenneth and seconded by Director Chapman. So now you can just Roll call vote, please. Kelly.
Director Kenneth,
Yes.
Director Flaher,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Annable,
Yes.
Director Alexander,
Yes.
Director Gill.
Yes. Item is passed unanimously. Thank you very much, both. But you have another item actually. Item number 4. Accept the final Mayor Q, Mayor T parcel tax audit report for fiscal year 2021, 2022 as prepared by Moss Levy and Hartzines LLP. Justina can going to be present this item as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Following up on the final audit, that was the audit for all the agency's funds, specifically as required by both the Measure Q and Measure T expenditure plans. We also conduct an independent audit where it kind of basically assures that the revenues expended by the agency are in line with the fiscal safeguards stated in the plan. And this is actually the first audit year for Measure T since it passed in November of 2020. But that doesn't translate to it's the last one for Measure Q. It would actually continue, Measure Q funds will continue to be audited as long as we're spending the money. And so in fiscal year 21-22, the authority received a little over $8 million in parcel tax revenues. And again, with the county pool posting some unrealized losses, plus kind of the cost share reimbursements that we received from partners and a few grants, we had a net total revenue of a little bit over $7.9 million. And in compliance with the expenditure plan, the authority did not spend more than 0.1% of the revenues received from Measure T to cover any costs related to the expenditure plan oversight committee's activities. 1%, 0.1% equates to approximately $8,000. And the authority also did not charge more than the $500,000 that was approved by the board to pay for administrative expenses out of Measure T. The remaining balance of the agency's administrative expenses are covered by other funds. And overall, we recorded a little over $7.7 million in total expenditure expenses to Measure Q. And that's largely because of 4 land transactions that we completed last year. And in Measure T, we recorded a little over $4.4 million. And the final audit will be presented to the Expenditure Plan Oversight Committee for review in January of next year. And if there's any questions regarding the process regarding just auditing Measure Q and Measure T in accordance to the expenditure plan, I can also turn it over to Alex for his process. But in general, it's kind of, the audit was kind of done in concert with the entire agency's funds.
Kindly ask the board if they have any question about this item. I'm just ask if any member of the public would like to make any comments on this item.
I see one.
So please entertain the motion.
One last remark. Justine is fantastic to work with. Makes my life fantastic. So you guys are incredibly lucky. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We know.
Okay, so please entertain the motion to approve.
Okay. Sure.
So we,
Yes, I'd like to move to the.
Second. Your second.
Oh,
Okay, we have the motion approved by Director Alexander and seconded by Director Falahas. Please, Kelly, roll call vote.
Director Kenneth,
Yes.
Director Flaher,
yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Annable,
Yes.
Director Alexander,
Yes.
Director Gill.
Yes. I know, but I'm just looking. This is slow. Yeah. So this item is passed unanimously as well. Thank you, Justina.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move to the next item is an informational item. 30th anniversary overview. Charlotte Graham is going to present. Oh, you are there.
Here I am. Good evening, directors. My name is Charlotte Graham. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Open Space Authority. So tonight I'm going to be providing an overview of our 30th anniversary events and what to expect in 2023. And I'd also like to use this time as an opportunity for any questions that you might have or feedback or suggestions. And I'm also going to be presenting this information to the Citizens Advisory Committee at the end of the month for additional feedback. Okay, so the theme for the Open Space Authority's 30th anniversary year is Protecting Nature Together Forever. And some of you might remember the 25th anniversary, which happened in 2018. And we know that many of you were engaged in those activities. But one of the things that we feel makes our 30th anniversary so special is that there have been a lot of huge accomplishments in the last 5 years. So there's much to celebrate, including but not limited to the protection of nearly 1,000 acres in Coyote Valley in 2019. That same year, the passing of Assembly Bill 948, the Coyote Valley Conservation Program, which designated Coyote Valley as a landscape of statewide significance. In 2020, there was the acquisition of the Tilton Ranch with our partners at Peninsula Open Space Trust and Valley Habitat Agency. Of course, that same year was the passing of Measure T with 81% of the vote, which made Measure Q permanent and placed it among the top 10 conservation tax measures nationwide in the past 30 years. And in 2021 alone, the Open Space Authority received multiple funding measures totaling over $16 million from the state of California for the protection of North Coyote Valley. San Jose City Council voted unanimously to approve zoning changes to Coyote Valley to protect it from urban sprawl. The Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to strengthen protections for Coyote Valley's natural and working lands through amendments to the county's general plan, zoning ordinance, and zoning map. And these combined actions really speak to how far we've come as a community in prioritizing Coyote Valley for agriculture, open space, and the protection of natural resources over sprawl development. So there's a lot to celebrate from this year as well through next year. And we're also keeping in mind that it isn't just about us. We feel this is an important time to honor those who have contributed to open space efforts over the years, connect with new constituents, as well as devoted open space enthusiasts across our jurisdiction, and especially as we see growing concerns about climate change. We want to make sure that we're providing public education about nature as infrastructure and nature-based solutions to climate change. So here I've outlined a few of the top goals that guide our upcoming 30th anniversary promotions, events, and educational outreach, including building awareness of the Open Space Authority and our work by providing opportunities for constituents to engage with current and future projects and programs. We also aim to reach new audiences while celebrating notable contributors to the agency over the years, whether they be individuals or partner agencies, and of course, celebrating the amazing places that we've all worked so hard and continue to work hard to protect for the benefit of future generations. And of course, as we educate about open spaces and agriculture, we talk about how caring for nature allows nature to care for us and create more resilience in a changing climate. And finally, we hope to strengthen existing partnerships while continuing to build new ones. And in doing so in a way that advances our mission of connecting people to nature. In spreading the message that nature is for everyone, we hope to make everyone feel welcome. and that they belong at our open space preserves. So how are we going to do all of this? So we are asking for everyone's help. Our 30th anniversary festivities will kick off in January 2023 with a press announcement, the launch of our anniversary logo, a landing page that specifically addresses what's happening throughout the year and how folks can get connected, a brand new template for the Open Space Authority's e-newsletter, and a whole string of 30th anniversary promotions, which I'll talk about in a few minutes here. And I won't go too much into this tonight, but we're also pretty excited about some of the commemorative items coming up. So some really exciting things to look forward to there. Some neat sunglasses and some vintage style posters and postcards. Again, very excited to show all of those to you in the new year. Throughout the 30th anniversary, the Open Space Authority is going to focus on the following content themes, including climate resilience, wildlife connectivity, local agriculture, land stewardship, and open space access for all. And these messages and stories will be featured in the Open Space Authority's blog, monthly newsletter, social media platforms, including a series of short kind of advertorial style videos that'll be linking people to more information about projects, programs, and preserves on our website. And as we share these out, we're asking for everyone's help in amplifying these stories. So in addition to the digital media updates that I mentioned earlier, the Open Space Authority will run a series of digital ads. We'll do media pitching for events, acquisitions, and other exciting announcements using new, traditional, and ethnic media. We'll host monthly virtual and in-person nature and outdoor education events and volunteer opportunities. And we're planning to participate in outreach opportunities across Santa Clara Valley that we invite you, our directors, to check out when staff and volunteers are tabling and hosting booths at different community events in your districts. And finally, we're going to have a toolkit available for stakeholders, including board members, CAC, partners, and press. And you can expect to receive regular updates from me regarding announcements and anything that kind of our communications team would like help sharing, as well as reminders about all of the different ways that everyone can get involved and stay involved. So there's a couple of milestone events coming up next year for our board members to be aware of. Save the date invitations are going out before the end of the year for a special 30th anniversary celebration event, Saturday, May the 6th. As I mentioned, invitations will be sent out for this soon, and we hope all of our board members can attend. So please keep an eye out for more details about timing, location, information, and how to RSVP. But feel free to pencil that into your calendars for Saturday, May the 6th. And another very exciting milestone that we look forward to celebrating is the ribbon cutting for the Mayan Oyakma Coyote Ridge Open Space Preserve. So that'll likely take place sometime in the fall, but excited for the official opening and ribbon cutting. And one thing that I'd also like to point out, which isn't on this slide, is a public event. It's an Earth Day celebration in Coyote Valley, which will tie into Coyote Valley Conservation Area's master planning community engagement efforts. So again, there's many ways to get involved, and these are just some easy things that everyone can do to support the 30th anniversary of the agency. Again, keep an eye out for that toolkit that I'll be sending out to you in January of next year. This is going to have all the information that you'll need to share things out from our different various platforms. And we're also asking for everyone's assistance in helping us grow our monthly newsletter following over the next year so we can continue reaching new people to help spread the word about current and future initiatives and opportunities for engagement. So this could be as easy as forwarding the newsletter to a friend or referring somebody to an article that you think they might enjoy. And for those who aren't already on the Coyote Valley Conservation Area's master plan interest list, that's a really great way to stay in the loop and share action items to your communities as well. And again, there's going to be that Coyote Valley Earth Day event coming up in April, and hope to see everybody there. And again, those who use social media, always appreciate follows, tags, and sharing posts from our official accounts. This helps us reach more people and it helps grow our following. And in terms of reporting back, you can expect to see a summary of how things went in the 2023 year in review and our annual communications update to the board. And of course, you can feel free to reach out to me anytime with any questions. So on that note, I'll go ahead and stop here and just see if anyone has any questions or feedbacks. If there are specific opportunities or events that you'd like to let us know about in the upcoming year, we'd love to hear them. Thank you.
Kindly ask the board if they have any question about this item, please feel free to ask at this point. Director Chairman, please.
This is so exciting. So I'm a little bit selfish because I know OSA is going to be doing an event for the council member next Saturday, week from Saturday. Are you going to be rolling any of this out? Are you going to be teasing out any of this information, which would be, yeah, great.
Yeah, that's through the chair. That's a great question. So we are arming all of our staff and volunteers with the information about our 30th coming up and letting folks know to keep this in mind in the year to come. A lot of this information is going to start getting teased out really in the next couple of months.
Okay, so I have to be patient. No, that's good. That's
Any
good.
other board member has any other question? Great presentation. Yeah, we are ready for 30th anniversary. So thank you very much. It's really a wonderful and impressive presentation.
Thank
you. Any member of the public?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We have a member of the public who has raised her hand.
Okay, please. Who's the public? What is the name?
Ronnie Kindhouse.
Okay.
Should I start? I don't know. I haven't commented here before.
Yes, please do.
Okay, thank you. My name is Shanae Kindhouse. Sorry?
Yeah, please.
I'm the environmental advocate for Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society, and I actually came tonight to speak on another item. But since listened to this beautiful presentation and looking forward to celebrate with you, I wanted to just say that I was looking for some more celebration of biodiversity in the valley, not only as a place to cross as a wildlife corridor or connectivity corridor, but also habitat on the valley floor for the wildlife that live there, whether it's the birds or wetlands that will be restored. So I guess I'm missing in the nature for the animals. And I hear more about how it serves people, which it does. I mean, I have no argument with that, but I think it's not, biodiversity is a huge crisis, and it's not only due to climate change, it's also due to a large extent due to land use issues and roads, obviously, and fragmentation of the habitat is one of the causes that OSA is working on, and I truly appreciate it. But I think I would like to see more language in all of this campaign that you're developing about the pollinators. And I know you have a program for butterflies, and you're going to talk about the boring owls next, the wildlife that need to come back to the valley. I'm missing it in this presentation. So just a comment. Thank you.
Thanks. This is an informational item, and then thank you very much to you too. So let's move to the next item. Is item number 6. Approve lease between the Peninsula Open Space Trust, Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, and Santa Clara Valley Habitats Agency for reintroduction of Western growing holes on approximately 100 acres in Coyote Valley. Gali Bisan is going to present this item.
Before Gali gets on, this is Aaron Hamer, Natural Resource Manager. As many of the board members know, the public may know, this is actually Gali's last 2 days at the Open Space Authority. She'll be leaving us for MidPenn, our little sister agency. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Gali for her incredible run at the Open Space Authority. Wanted to highlight her amazing work with wildlife linkages, aquatic habitat, rare species, and more. I was looking at her list of accomplishments on dozens of projects. I heard 23 grants thrown out there earlier, which is at least 3 per year. So that's quite a run. Gali and I earlier today in her debrief, we're talking about, what does the future of stewardship look like? How can we save the planet today and build towards a more inclusive tomorrow? These are some of the big themes of Gali's career, and I will definitely miss her. So I'm glad she's going out on a high note with this wonderful project. And I know Andrea wanted to say a few words as well.
Thanks, Aaron. And Gali, I can't see you since I'm calling in. So wish I could, but thank you for being here tonight to present this really exciting project to our board of directors. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the dedication and passion that you brought to the Open Space Authority. It's been a number of years now, and you've really just left such a legacy at OSA and in the Santa Clara Valley. And I think your heart is going to be still with many of those volunteer projects with kids out on the Pajaro River Ag Preserve and Fisher Bend in Coyote Valley. You've really shepherded some critically important projects and programs for the Open Space Authority, including the Integrated Pest Management Program, pond restoration, fuels management. And I think one of the things, at least recently, that you've just really put your heart into is the importance of equity, marrying equity and conservation, and equity and contracting with our grazing tenants and those we work with out on the land. So our loss is MidPenn's gain, but I fully hope and trust that we'll continue to work closely together in our natural resource and planning departments between MidPenn and OSA. So my best to you, and good luck on your presentation.
Thank you. That was kind of overwhelming. I'm really touched by those words, both Aaron and Andrea. Very honored and lucky that I got to work here, and I appreciate the sentiment so much, and just feel a little lost for words right now. That was more than I expected. So I'll try to get through my presentation. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. One last thing I'll say, and I kind of mentioned this at the staff meeting, is that this organization has a lot of heart. And I see that in 3 ways. I see that towards the land and the creatures that are part of it. I see that towards each other, and I see that towards the community. And that's really why this has been my home for 8 years. On that note, good evening, directors. I'm going to be presenting a lease. Let me show me. It should be. Just use that. Thank you. So tonight I'll be sharing the purpose for the Burrowing Owl Reintroduction Program and why burrowing owl conservation in Santa Clara County is so urgent. I'll share with you our criteria for site selection, and finally, the terms of the lease proposed before you. So very quickly, the Western burrowing owl is a small owl found in the Western US, Florida, Canada, Mexico, and Central America. We have a migratory population that winters in Santa Clara County, and we have separate from that a small and persistent resident population that breeds in Santa Clara County. So breeding burrowing owl numbers in Santa Clara County are really down. So between 1988 and 2002, can you move? I can't see that. Thank you. 66% of locations have been lost. So that's over 200 breeding owls. That's very dire. Today, there's approximately 15 pairs of owls that remain in all of the county. The remaining birds that are here exist in a very highly urbanized landscape. The Habitat Agency is the one responsible for owl recovery through the Habitat Conservation Plan. And their goal is to establish new breeding locations on conserved lands away from urban areas. The birds that are remaining are in such peril because the areas that they're breeding in are being they're being condensed into smaller and smaller locations, and therefore they're having to compete with other animals for the same prey base. And they are also the prey base for a lot of those animals as well. And so you're having just more predators in their habitat, as well as less areas for them to disperse. The numbers are so dire that the Habitat Agency is now going into higher interventions. So that is, they're going to be removing juveniles who in general have high mortality rates from the wild. They're going to be keeping them over the winter in a captive breeding facility and then releasing them as breeding adults in a new site. It's really important that they're reintroduced onto lands that are conserved and not surrounded by urbanization. And that's where we come in. So the requirements for the site are, number one, that it's protected. So this is where the Open Space Authority and Post have really done a tremendous amount of work. The other requirements are that it's grasslands that are open, relatively free of trees that are purchased for their predators, low elevation, so less than 200 feet, lots of ground squirrels, mild soil disturbance, and lots of insects and rodents, which are their prey base. Okay. The other thing they need is to be protected from people, which could be attracted in particular to the temporary enclosures that will be in place during this sensitive reintroduction phase. So the site that this lease is proposing for is in Mid-Coyote Valley, which is starred here near our Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve. We're now going to be considering this site an existing condition of the Coyote Valley Master Plan. So we're going to consider burrowing owls at this site as an existing condition as part of the planning process. The property, the slide will advance in a second. The property in question is 206 acres. It was purchased in 2021 and owned by Peninsula Open Space Trust.
It will be transferred to the Open Space Authority in the near future. Approximately 100 acres of the property is fallow land and is managed by the Open Space Authority under a license and management agreement. The Open Space Authority and Post worked closely with the Habitat Agency to release a request for proposals and select a grazer. That grazer will be under contract to the Habitat Agency. The Open Space Authority is around the 100 acres so that grazing can occur. We did the first round of grassland management. So the burrowing owls require short statured grasslands, less than 6 inches. And because we didn't have the cattle fence up, we went ahead and mowed to get it ready. We will also be installing artificial burrows. After that, we're going to be turning over the property management to the Habitat Agency for the purpose of owl conservation and reintroduction. So the lease terms. So going back, this is a picture of the property, and the area in yellow shows you the area that will be as part of the lease terms. This is us flagging where the burrows are going to go. David Tharp, our equipment maintenance operator, is very excited about this. So the Habitat Agency is under a lot of pressure to do this work. They're under a microscope with the regulatory agencies. And so we thought it'd be best to not be an intermediary between the Habitat Agency and the grazer, or be the ones responsible for vegetation management, because we have so many other responsibilities and so many other acres of land that sometimes we may not be able to get to things as quickly as is needed. So therefore, the Habitat Agency is responsible for all the owl recovery actions. They can ask us to assist, and if we have availability, we will do so, but we're not responsible for that. So it's a 10-year lease. The Habitat Agency is the lessee. Again, the purpose is to reintroduce burrowing owls. It will manage the property, and they'll be responsible for the owl recovery activities. So the next steps are that the Habitat Agency becomes the lessee with signatures. We're going to be installing artificial burrows in the locations that you see in this map. After that, there'll be enclosures and temporary fencing at those burrows. So that'll come up this winter, January through February. And we'll be releasing breeding pairs, 6 pairs of owls in March of 2023. And I can answer any questions.
So ask the board if they have any question about this item. No question? Oh, Director Annabelle, please.
I'm curious, I was expecting to see the area where the nest would be placed would be closer to Fisher Creek, but it's on the opposite side.
Yes, that was actually deliberate in case we wanted to do restoration along Fisher Creek in the future. That gives us that space. And it also, Fisher Creek has a lot of perches for raptors, and the burrowing owls like to be away from that. So those were the 2 considerations.
Director Chapman, please.
What is the success rate? I mean, I am a little bit alarmed to hear we have 15 pairs left. That almost like means extinct. You're nodding.
Yeah, we are facing local extinction without these interventions. This has been done before, not by this team, but in other locations around the country and in Canada with success. So we're hoping that we have success here as well.
I think it's something that we probably need to publicize as well, because I don't think the general public has any, it's nodding yet. I don't think they have any knowledge. We didn't have any knowledge. I don't think they have any knowledge that this is occurring. I think that that's something that we should be very possible. I see she wants to comment. Thank you.
Through the chair, we do have some communications planned in the upcoming year that we'll be working with natural resources and conservation to put out. So thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Any other board members has any other question? That's not. No board member has any other question? Then I'm kindly ask if any member of the public would like to make any comments on this item. You have any public? Yeah, please do so. What is the name?
Shawnee Kleinhaus.
Chani, please.
1 second, we're gonna put the timer up on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As echoes. This is Shawnee Kleinhaus again. I'm the environmental advocate for Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society. As Gali showed, the breeding population of boring owls in the South Bay is almost gone. In the past 6 years, we lost 70% of the breeding adults that we still had, from 116 breeding adults in 2014 to only 33 adults this year. Breeding boring owls have become extirpated from former large breeding colonies in the South Bay, including Warm Springs and Mission College, and the remaining historical large sites that had them, like Moffett Airfield and San Jose International Airport, supported only 1 breeding pair each this year. At this time, the only 2 local breeding sites that persist are Shoreline in Mountain View and the Regional Water Facility in Alviso. These populations persist because of intensive intervention and conservation efforts that are funded by the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Agency. The Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society has been at the forefront of boring owl conservation over the past few decades, and we saw the population dwindle, and we engage in advocacy, monitoring, and research. Currently, with funding from the Habitat Agency, we continue to engage in conservation efforts and management of boring owl populations in Alviso. This, in 2022, was the most successful and largest breeding boring owl population with 6 breeding pairs, which is really sad. So we applaud the efforts that POST and the Habitat Agency and you, the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, are taking, and we hope that the conservation of efforts that you're jointly embarking on will return breeding boring owls to Coyote Valley. They used to be there. I have one word of caution. We have seen photographers and people who want a picture of boring owls will go over any obstacle. They'll climb fences, they'll do anything they can to get a picture. And so advertising this has to be done very, very carefully, if at all. It's important to do, it's critically important to try and save a species that used to be very common and very loved, and it's almost gone now. But it has to be done very carefully with a lot of attention to how to actually not attract people's attention to this. So thank you, and I wish good luck. I wish it happened earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Shani. Any other member of the public has any other comments? No, so kindly ask the board, please entertain the motion to approve.
Second.
So we have the motion moved by Director, you did that one, right? Director Annever, and seconded by Director Chapman. Kindly ask Kelly roll call vote, please. Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you. Director Kenneth.
Yes.
Director Fuller.
Yes.
Director Chapman.
Yes.
Director Hannibal.
Yes.
Director Alexander.
Yes.
Director Gill.
Yes.
Thank you, Gally.
This item is passed unanimously. Thank you, Gali. I just forgot you are just standing. It's long.
We will miss you.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? I missed the conversation. You are leaving? But I was not here. I'm just inside the restroom at that time. Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was hard to get very emotional right before my presentation.
You're leaving on a comedic note now.
Yeah.
That's right, that's right.
Anyway, good night.
Thank you.
Oh, let's move to the next item then, item number 7. As usual, adopt resolution 22-95 proclaiming a local emergency, rectifying the proclamation of a state of emergency issued on March 4, 2020 by Governor Gavin Newsom, and reauthorizing remote teleconference meeting of the legislative body of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority for the period November 10 through December 10, 2022 pursuant to Brown Act provision. Kelly is going to present this item.
No presentation needed, I believe. At this point, if there's any
Okay,
questions.
then I'm kindly asked the
Motion to approve.
no need to ask any question. I'm kindly ask the board if they have any question about this item.
How long? do we have to
I'm
do
just
this?
asking, we need none, and I'm kindly asked if any member of the public would like to make any comments on this item.
There are none.
None, then I kindly request the board please entertain the motion to approve this. Director Flaher.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Thanks.
We have the motion moved by Director Flaher and seconded by Director Animal. So
I
then
never got the answer to my question.
you have any question?
Yes, how much longer do we do this?
Counselor, I don't know if you have a comment about the end of the state of emergency.
Well, I think if you discontinue it and then there's a problem and we need to go remote, you'll be in a little bit of a difficult situation. This is ending, I believe, the end of February. Newsom has said that that's, so basically it's going to be over at the end of February. So, but you know, I don't, it's up to you. I mean, the board is not obligated to pass this motion. So, yeah, I think staff puts it on as out of an abundance of caution in case we need it as we head into winter.
3 more times.
Any other question before we just ask Kelly for roll call vote? Kelly, roll call vote, please.
Director Kenneth,
Yeah.
Director Flaher,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Annabelle. Yes. Director Alexander,
Yes.
Director Gill.
Yes.
Thank you.
This item is passed unanimously. Let's move to the next item. I'm a little bit faster than people seem to. Okay, so next item is a committee meeting summary. We don't have any, it's a none. Then move to the next item is an informational report, general manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we just have one brief report from Lee Rauscher, Assistant General Manager this evening.
Will you please?
Certainly, thank you, Andrea. This is very quick, but because today you received an email from Elizabeth Loretto, I wanted to point out to check your inboxes for an invitation to the annual holiday gathering. Well, it's still near the top. And by the time we meet again, it will be too late. So December the 2nd at 11:30, I believe, but the invitation.
11:30 to 2.
11:30 to 2. And good news, our annual gift exchange slash steal will be a feature of the event. So we hope to see you all there. And if you don't find the email or have any questions, let Elizabeth or myself know. Thank
It's a
you.
lot, it's a lot of fun. I had a ball, that's just new direction. Great way to meet people.
Yes.
Any other staff member has any other report? No. So legal counsel report, please.
No report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bill. Board members report, liaison update and comments. I'm going to start from Director Kenneth, please.
Bear with me on this one. I just checked with scvote.org, and despite the millions and billions of dollars that have been spent on the various elections lately, the grand total of 33% turnout. That's totally embarrassing. So I'm tying that in with this date, that November 10th, 1938. I don't know what that means anything. My family it means a lot because two of my great uncles were sent to Dachau. It was the beginning of what has become known as Kristallnacht. And our factory in Heilbronn, Germany was of course taken over by the Nazis, and my family was scattered. So I looked at 33%, I think Kristallnacht, we want everyone to prevent that from happening again in this country. It's got to be better than 33%. That is my report.
Director Flaher, please.
Glad to be back.
Happy to see you. Director Chapman, please.
Director Chapman got to go on 2 field trips instead of Zoom meetings, so I attended a tour with staff and Silicon Valley Leadership Group, kind of wearing both hats, a tour of Coyote Valley, which was very, very exciting, very fun, and take them on kind of tour of now what the preserve looks like, to look at the construction of the trail is underway, actually on the ridge. It's like, we approved it, and a month later it's happening. I said, this isn't the city of San Jose, this is fabulous. So anyway, we move a lot faster than the city does, so that's congratulations, guys. And so it was a fabulous tour. It was a very nice day. And then yesterday, a very long day, but Mark and I carpooled up to Together Bay Area and with Director Alexander, and so we attended a conference and policy setting, and that was very important to see all the shared ideas from people around the Bay, and talking about resilience and talking about their work and workforce management and funding opportunities. So I think there's a lot of commonalities. So it was a great day. So thank you again for driving, Mark, and I appreciate it. I learned a lot.
Thank you. Director Annabelle, please.
I would just like to say I won't be able to join in the party. I'll be out of town. But I do have a young person that's interested in applying for the Citizen Advisory Committee. So I need to get some information about how we get that done.
Thank you, Director Alexander.
Yes, I also wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to go to the Together Bay Area Policy Summit. It was really educational, amazing amount of knowledge and expertise in that room. It was, I was kind of blown away by it, but it was great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, after the pandemic, I started going to attend all the district 8, whatever my district is, 8 and the 7 and the 2 community meetings. So updating the open space authorities work. So hopefully they just think now when I just start going, oh, we have the open space authority somewhere. So it's and then listen from them and then their concern, and even tell them we have a urban open grant program, and then if you have any kind of like your project in your mind which fall under our mission, so definitely contact the staff So they are happy to listen those kind of things. Thank you very much. That's my report. Any other report from staff or any board members? If it's not, then meeting is adjourned now.
Yes.